Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome to Shri Radha Madhavari Dham, and a very happy Ram Navami to everyone. Just a few announcements. First of all, a big thank you to all the sponsors for today's program. Please give yourselves a big hand for making it such a nice success. Also, a big thank you to one and all. There's quite a few devotees who brought some prasadam from home to offer today, so please accept our gratitude. Thank you so much. And also a big thank you to the temple devotees for spending all day in the kitchen cooking for the lunch and the dinner prasadam. So we've got a nice feast coming up. We have a small class on Lord Rama's appearance and pastimes and so forth by His Grace Purna Pragya Prabhu. He's the senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He has written a lot of books. We have some of his books here for sale. He's got the Srimad Bhagavatam by Srila Prabhupada condensed in one book, same with the Ramayana and Mahabharata, and also Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat. Really good books to have. If you don't have time to go to the the 18 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam or the 9 volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita and so forth, these condensed books are really a nice way to get yourself acquainted and learn a lot from those books or from the scriptures. So please, if you want, those books are there. So that is about Purna Pragya Prabhu and some events that we have going on at the temple, some upcoming events. We have His Grace Sureshwara Prabhu coming here and talking about our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. There's going to be 10 sessions. And they're really worth coming to attend. There's no charge for them. There'll be prasadam served after each session. But we're going to be discussing Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. The title might be misleading. You're going to be learning a lot about Srila Prabhupada, and because he's also Srila Prabhupada's disciple, Sureshwar Prabhu, he'll also talk a lot about Prabhupada. But there's going to be a lot about what it is to be a spiritual master, guru-disciple relationship, and how Prabhupada set up our mission and what we can learn from it. It will make your learning and getting acquainted with Iskcon really easy. There's some excellent classes, very inspiring, and he's a very enthusiastic speaker. So please watch our Facebook and our website and follow us on the Twitter. We'll have all the information about this seminar series. Usually these 10 sessions, people have to wait for a long time to get these 10 fitted in a short time. We're going to be able to fit them in 3 weekends. So it's the 25th and the 26th, and then the 3rd and the 4th, 2nd and the 3rd of May, and then 9th and the 10th of May. There are going to be morning sessions and afternoon sessions and Sunday morning sessions. So there will be 3 sessions each weekend. 10:30 to noon on Saturdays, and then from 2 to 3:15 on Saturdays. You get them all done in a short space of time. And then Sunday mornings from 10:30 to noon. And like I said, prasadam will be served, and very inspiring seminar series that's coming up. And we continue with our Bhagavad Gita study on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 7:15 to 8:15. His Grace Purna Pragya Prabhu holds those study sessions. And we also read one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam every day via teleconference from 6 to 6:15. So if you don't have time to come to the temple, you don't have time to read Srimad Bhagavatam, you just have to pick up a phone in your pajamas and listen to one verse of Srimad Bhagavatam every day, including Saturdays and holidays. You can listen to the verse and its explanation. So we've reached Canto 2, we're starting Canto 2, and we are around about verse 10, I believe. 10 or 11 is what we did today. 11. 11 is what we read today. I missed today's because I was at the temple. So make sure that you get the phone number from us, and you can listen to the verses. They're very nicely explained by devotees, and if you want to, you can also join us to do the same. And there's a lot of other activities. You can visit our website. I won't take up too much of your time. His Grace Purna Pragya Prabhu is ready to give the class. But again, Sureshwara Prabhu coming soon, and the other classes, like free yoga every Saturday and Sunday mornings, 9 to 10 and 10 to 11. So join us for the yoga classes as well. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Begins with Maharaj Dasharatha. He is the ruler of Ayodhya. The city is full of all opulence, very wide streets which are cleansed every day with scented water sprinkled by the trunks of elephants. Palatial buildings full of wealth, full of beautiful people. He had it all. But still, he was despondent. So much so, it is described that he could not even pretend to be happy. Generally, people, when they're not happy, they still pretend to be happy. Just like whenever I go to the supermarket or other place, and the cashier asks the customer, "How's it going?" They say, "Oh, wonderful, great." Everyone. I wonder what wonderful things are they doing that I'm missing out. But it is described that Maharaj Dasharatha, although he had everything, he was so unhappy, he could not even pretend to be happy. Why? He knows why. He had no son to continue his dynasty. He had appeared in the dynasty from Iskcon, and for so many generations, Ayodhya had been ruled by a king in the same dynasty, father to son, to son, to son, to son. But Maharaj Dasharatha had no son. He had a daughter previously. Does anyone know her name? Her name was Shanta, and he gave her to his friend to raise because his friend was also childless. Who was his good friend? Maharaj Rama. So Dasharatha had no son. Finally he thought, I will perform an Ashwamedha Yajna, a horse sacrifice. And by this performance, maybe the devas, the demigods, will be pleased to give me sons. So he called all of his ministers, his priests, and he consulted with them. They all said it is a very good idea. Then his chief minister, Sumantra, took him to a secluded place and told him of a story, an ancient history. And this history, it was predicted that he would receive 4 glorious sons. But to do so, he would have to invite the sage Rishashringa to come to Ayodhya to perform the sacrifice. The story of Rishashringa is there that he was the son of a Rishi Vimandaka living in the forest. And his father wanted to isolate him away from all bad influences so that he would not become entangled in material life. Especially, he never wanted him to see another human being, and especially a woman. He kept him in isolation. So, the thing is that Rama, at that time, in his kingdom there was a terrible drought for 12 years and everyone was suffering. And it was disclosed to him that only if you bring this Rishishringa to your kingdom, as soon as he steps over the boundary of your kingdom, Indra will pour rains. But how to get him to come, Father would never agree. So finally they devised a plan that many young girls were sent secretly into the forest, and they made up a camp close to the ashram of Vibhandaka and the son Rishishringa. And when the father had gone out once to collect flowers and other things, the girls went, and the Rishishringa received them very respectfully. Because he had never seen a woman, he thought they were men. Although their forms appeared a little strange to him. And he welcomed them with fruit and roots like they eat in the jungle. But the girl said, our means, our way of welcoming is different. We welcome by embracing. So when they embraced Rishishringa, he felt something which he had never felt before. He came under the sway of their feminine attraction. So they were able to take him on their boat back to the kingdom of Ramapad, and immediately when he came there, rain fell from the sky, and then the marriage was arranged between Shanta and Rishishringa. So anyway, Dasharatha was told, you must bring Rishishringa to perform the sacrifice, then you will get glorious sons. So he went to his friend Ramapad and then disclosed the purpose of his visit, and the king agreed, all right. So Rishishringa and Shanta went with Dasharatha, and the horse sacrifice was performed. In previous ages, there were these kind of animal sacrifices, but in Kali Yuga, they are forbidden. Because the Brahmins were so perfect in their chanting of the mantras and other necessary skills, that the sacrificed animal, it is said, would immediately, after death, have a existence in heaven, in the heavenly planets in Svarga. So the sacrifice was performed, and then there was a second sacrifice, Putreshti sacrifice, recommended by Rishishringa. And when that sacrifice was performed, from out of the fire came a wonderful personality, very dark but very powerful, sent from Lord Vishnu with a pot of sweet rice. And that personality said, feed this to your queens, and then they will bear children. And then he disappeared. So a portion was given to Dasharatha, had 3 wives. He gave first half to Kaushalya, his eldest queen. Then he gave a quarter to his youngest wife, Kaikeyi, quarter to, an eighth to his wife, Sumitra, and then the remaining 1/8 again he gave to her. And in due course of time, it was seen that they were bearing children. And at an auspicious time, first Lord Rama was born from Kaushalya, then Bharata, then twins, Lakshmana and Shatrughna. So it is described in Srimad Bhagavatam that these four brothers, they are all expansions of Lord Vishnu and expansions of his expansion. They are Vishnu Tattva, they are not ordinary living beings. So meanwhile, in the heavenly planets, the Devas, they went to Brahma and they were saying, we are feeling great distress because there's a great Rakshasa, Ravana, who has received your benedictions. He has become so powerful, he doesn't care for anyone, and he is giving trouble to everyone. We are feeling great distress. Do something. So while they were discussing, Lord Vishnu appeared on Garuda, and he assured them that I will appear as the sons of Dasharatha, and so you should also appear as your expansions to assist me in these pastimes. And Lord Vishnu disappeared thereafter. The different demigods, they begot children, which were what we generally call the monkeys. So elsewhere it is described that Hanuman and others, they are called Kipurushas. Just as in Vedic literature, the earth is called Bharatvarsha. Now it is, in more recent times, come to be said that India is Bharatvarsha, but Prabhupada explains that Bharatvarsha formerly referred to the entire world. And then there are other varshas, which are portions of Jambu-Dweep, which is the first section of Bhumandala, where there are superhuman beings that resemble human forms. Therefore, Ki Purusha, the name means almost like a human, whether it's human being. So this race of superhuman beings who could change forms at will, who are expert in all kinds of mystic powers and the use of weapons, they appear. So Ramchandra and his brothers, Bharata, Lakshmana, and Shatrughna, they were taken care of especially by the sage Vasishta, who performed all of their sanskaras and gave them training. So it was seen from the very beginning that Lakshman was very, very attached to Ram and Ram to Lakshman. And similarly, Shatrughna to Bharat. That Ram would not eat unless Lakshman was there and vice versa. So although they were all very similar and supremely powerful, still it was also seen that Ram outshone the others. So he became very much the pet son of Maharaj Dasharatha. So I will just read from where we left off in the morning, which I have just now summarized. After Ram, Lakshman, Bharata, and Shatrughna had completed their education, Maharaj Dasharatha consulted Vasishta about their marriages. During one such discussion, the greatly powerful Brahmarshi Vishwamitra arrived at Ayodhya and entered the royal palace. Maharaj Dasharatha and Vasishta and Muni immediately got up from their seats to welcome the great sage. The king then worshipped his guest in a befitting manner. Afterward, Maharaj Dasharatha escorted Vishwamitra into the royal court and seated him upon an opulent throne. The king then very submissively said, "O foremost of saintly persons, I hope that your endeavors to conquer over the cycle of repeated birth and death are meeting with success. I consider your coming here to be as welcome as a gift of nectar placed in one's hands. A torrential rainfall after a long drought, the birth of a son for one who is childless, or the recovery of great wealth that was considered irrevocably lost. So just see how nicely Maharaj Dasharatha is speaking to welcome his guest. He says, your arrival here is more so pleasing, just as if someone were to put Amrit into my hands. Or just like the happiness one would feel if he has both children, and then he gets sons. Or if someone had thought, oh, all my money is lost. I've lost all my money, and then all of it has come back. So your coming to my palace is as welcome as that. When Vishwamitra inquired about his welfare, Maharaj Dasharatha humbly replied, "O great sage, your coming here is a great blessing for me. I am honored by your presence. Now please tell me what you desire so that I may serve the purpose of your visit." Vishwamitra was very pleased with the king's reception. He said, "I was performing a great sacrifice, but as it was nearing completion, two vicious Rakshasas named Marich and Subhahu interrupted it. Being determined to frustrate my attempts, they have repeatedly polluted my sacrificial arena by dropping flesh and blood upon the altar. Maharaj, so that I may successfully complete my sacrifice, I wish to take your son Ram to kill these two terrible Rakshasas. Please do not hesitate, out of parental affection, to honor my request, for I can assure you that Ram will easily accomplish this task. In return for your generosity, I shall give you ample benedictions. And so please let me take Ram for just 10 days. Rest assured that he will return to you safely." So Vishwamitra wanted to take Ram, who was just a boy, like 16 years old. He had just completed his studies, military lessons also. Had never fought in a battle, and Vishwamitra is saying, I want to take him to kill the two great Rakshasas, Marich and Subhahu, who are disturbing my sacrifice. So what did Dasharatha say? Did he say, okay? No. He was so attached to his son and so fearful that his son would be killed instead of the Rakshasas that he fainted. Vishwamitra's words pierced the very core of Maharaj Dasharatha's heart. He loved Ram. He thought, without Ram, I have no life. I couldn't live without Ram. Have you ever felt that about someone? Without that person, I could not live. Sometimes people feel like that. Usually it is a kind of foolishness, but in this case it is not foolishness, because Ram is the Supreme Lord Vishnu himself, appearing in human form. To love Ram is not a foolish love. That is actually where our love should be placed. So the idea that Vishwamitra would take Ram was like an arrow that pierced his heart, so that his entire body began to tremble. When the sage stopped speaking, the king fainted while seated upon his throne. Maharaj Dasharatha soon regained consciousness, but when he once again thought of losing Ram, he fainted a second time, falling onto the floor. This time it was only after about an hour that the king came to his senses. He was very upset. From his throne he fell onto the floor and didn't regain consciousness for 1 hour. Then when he saw Vishwamitra seated before him, Maharaj Dasharatha pleaded, O foremost of sages, you are everyone's well-wisher. My dear son Rama is only 16 years old and he has not yet finished his military training. He has not even once entered a battlefield. Please do not take my inexperienced son. Instead, allow me to accompany you along with a large army. And let us do the work of killing the two Rakshasas. Or, if you insist that Ram must go with you, let me and my army also accompany you, so that we can fight alongside him. My dear Vishwamitra, I am an old man, and without Ram I could not bear to go on living. Now, please, tell me more about these two Rakshasas. Give me some idea of the extent of their prowess. Vishwamitra replied, Ravana is the king of the Rakshasas, and he is oppressing the entire world. When he does not personally obstruct a sacrifice, he deputes these two powerful Rakshasas, Maricha and Subhahu, to do the mischief. When he heard the name Ravana, Maharaj Dasharatha became even more fearful and exclaimed, No one is able to fight with Ravana. Even the other two Rakshasas are much too formidable, either for me or for my son. O sage, I cannot fulfill your request. I cannot even bear to think of allowing my son to accompany you. Having become practically mad with grief, Maharaj Dasharatha continued to speak incoherently while refusing Vishwamitra's request. So when Vishwamitra came, Maharaj Dasharatha was, Pranam, Pranam. What seva can I do? I will do anything for you. But when Vishwamitra asked, I want to take your son Ram, no, no. So what did Vishwamitra say? Okay, then I'll make some other arrangement. No. No, he was angry. He was angry because this is a very irreligious, very sinful act of the emperor of the world, who should know how to behave himself, especially in front of a superior. Maharaj Dasharatha was king of the world, but still he was a Kshatriya, whereas Vishwamitra was a great Brahmin, Rishi. Therefore, the king had to accept himself as like a menial servant. And for a menial servant to tell the master, no, no, that cannot be tolerated. So he refused Vishwamitra's request. Because of this, the sage felt insulted. How can he say that to me? He doesn't know who I am. His anger flaring up, Vishwamitra angrily declared, Foolish king, your impudence will cause the ruin of your entire dynasty. You had promised to serve my purpose, and now you are going back on your word. Such behavior toward a Brahmin has never before been heard of in the Raghava dynasty. And so I shall immediately leave this condemned place. As Vishwamitra's body shook with anger, the entire earth began to tremble, so that even the demigods in heaven became afraid. Of course, now we might think this is exaggeration, but Prabhupada explains these descriptions are not exaggeration. In long gone previous ages, there were such powerful personalities. Vashishta Muni quickly approached Maharaj Dasharatha and said, O king, do not destroy all your previously acquired pious credit by abandoning righteousness now. You made a solemn promise, and so you must fulfill Vishwamitra's request by giving him your son. Formerly, when Vishwamitra was a king, there's also a very elaborate story in Mahabharata that Vishwamitra and Vashishta were actually enemies previously, very severe enemies. Vishwamitra was born as the son of King Gadi. He was a Kshatriya by birth. But after witnessing the superior prowess of the Brahmanas, superior to mere physical strength, he was determined, I also want to become a Brahmana, a Brahmarshi. So there's an elaborate story of how over a long, long period of time he accomplished that end. Formerly, when Vishwamitra was a king, he received celestial weapons from Lord Shiva that had been born from Daksha's daughters, Jaya and Sukabha. Vishwamitra will surely give these weapons to Ram as well as the necessary prowess to kill the Rakshasas. Actually, Vishwamitra could easily kill Maricha and Subahu himself, but he is asking for help just to enhance your son's glory. While listening to his preceptor's words, Maharaj Dasharatha's fears subsided, and his mind once again became balanced and pacified.